up, everybody? Puck Mike here, back with another video, and back with episode 3 of Pens Talk with Puck Mike, a Pittsburgh Penguins podcast from a lifelong fan. Whether you're bleeding, black and gold, or just trying to make sense of the season, you're in the right place. You can read the blog at penstalkwithpuckmike.com, and you can check out my other hockey card content on this same channel. I know I've been missing some videos on that. Getting back to it, probably going to do a checklist review of 24-25 Parkhurst coming out, I believe, this month. Hopefully coming out. And including the Puck Mike Show also coming back on this channel, a hockey card podcast, as well as my other channel at Cardzu Sports Cards, where I share my experience selling mostly low-end sports cards on eBay. Let's talk some Penguins hockey. On today's show, Dan Muse has been named the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, and let's just expectation set a little bit about this podcast. This is not going to be a podcast that covers the news in real time as it happens. I don't have time for that with this podcast, with the Puck Mike Show podcast, with the Puck Mike channel, and with the Cardzu Sports Cards channel, and my day job, and my 2 kids. Don't have time to follow the news in real time. I'm not trying to be Elliot Friedman, okay? So this is commentary. I'm going to comment on the news as I have time to do it. I do have a Twitter that I tweet out some things, or, well, it's called X now, I guess, that I send out some things here and there, but you might not see me talk about these things as they happen because that's just what this podcast is. So hopefully you love my commentary enough where it does not matter to you. I want to hear what Puck Mike has to say, not just as it happens, a year after it happens even. That's how much you love my content. No, but seriously though, today we're going to talk about Dan Muse being hired as the head coach. Dinner with Dubas at the scouting combine, I guess. What's it called? Scouting combine. He met with some of the prospects here in the upcoming draft. He says it means nothing. Are you lying? Understanding Kyle Dubas' first year. I want to go back a little bit and talk about his first year, specifically some of the decisions he made that first summer. I want to talk about that, and then we'll have our question of the day. And you can always ask a question of the day by commenting on one of these videos. Get your question featured in an upcoming video. Just comment your question on one of these videos. I'm happy to showcase that. So let's start with Dan Muse. Haven't done a ton of research on him here. I know he's I think he's won some stuff, at the AHL level. I think he was, USHL as well. He's been an assistant with the Rangers. Kind of funny. We swapped, assistant coaches with the Rangers. Interesting there. Excuse me. This will be his first job as a head coach in the NHL. And about an hour or two ago, the Penguins actually posted a quick couple-minute video, not even 2 minutes. Welcome to Pittsburgh, Dan Muse. Shows him walking into the offices, and this is a great city, you know. I think Dubas knows the importance of him being liked, and what a delicate dance that's going to be with the veterans in the room, and what it means to Pittsburgh to have a different coach behind the bench, which they haven't had since, 15, 16? So, 10 years. So I think this was a hire to really put somebody in place who knew how to deal with young players. I don't even want to say deal with, but, it was clear that Mike Sullivan didn't want to help develop the players that were coming up, the young players. And, we said for so long, we bring up these people from Wilkes-Barre and Sully puts them on the 4th line. He never gives them a chance, and then it was but he's never had any players that he really, who is there to send, and then, or who is there to put on the top line, and then he's got guys that he puts on the top line. It was very weird at the end of the season when he did that with Koivunen and McGroarty. That was not like Sullivan. I wonder if there was some friction there with Dubas and saying, hey, we got to see these guys and see what they got, dude. It was clear that Sully just wasn't interested in that. It makes me think of Tortorella, which is interesting because him and Tortorella are very similar. Sully's a little bit more professional, but, it makes me think of Tortorella saying, I got no interest in coaching these guys. So not the same type of player, but Sully's won. And Dubas addressed this in his press conference when he in the Mike Sullivan firing press conference. Sully's won Stanley Cups with this team. So it's really hard to go from, I'm going to be a Stanley Cup winning coach twice, and with the same team, with the same group of guys, same group of veterans, and then be like, yeah, I'll see us through the dark days, and I'm also going to have these young guys take the place of these veterans who we won Stanley Cups with and have all these memories with and all this respect for. I mean, it's not possible. Dubas knew, I think, coming into this that that's where they were going to be. But, and we'll touch on this a little bit when I talk about understanding his first year, and particularly that first summer. But he didn't want to come in and fire Sully right away. It's a delegate dance. And you know what? Fenway Sports Group probably didn't want to do that either. So optics unfortunately matter in a case where you have a group that's been stuck on the same thing for years and years and years. You do have to be a little bit delicate about that. So nonetheless, Dan Muse is here. He is going to coach Sidney Crosby. He's going to coach Chris Letang and Evgeny Malkin, probably Malkin's last year. Letang, I don't see him sticking around through the end of his contract. I see him kind of, I know he had the heart thing. How many surgeries has he had? I don't know if he'll make it. He's in great shape, but I just wonder if he'll get to the point where they're going to say this is not safe anymore. I don't see him going through the end of it either. I see Sid retiring in Pittsburgh. I know everybody wants to talk about Sid being traded, and when's he going to say that's it? I want out. He's just, even if he hates every second of it, I just don't think he's going to do that. He wants to be a winner, and he also knows that being a winner after retirement, I think, would look a lot better than having played for one team than playing for multiple teams. This is not Ray Bourque, who needs to go to another team and win a Stanley Cup. This is Sidney Crosby, who's already won 3 Stanley Cups. He just wants to win, but he wants to do it in Pittsburgh. That's one caveat that news reporters and all these other podcasts I watch of people that don't follow the Penguins do not understand. And I get it, you want to talk about it, that's fine, but it's never going to happen. He's going to retire a Pittsburgh Penguin. But he's going to be the coach of them. And what we're going to see, I think, otherwise Dubas made a huge mistake, is young players being integrated into the lineup. Not just given a shot for a game, not just put on the third line or the fourth line. You're not going to see probably some type of kid line like you saw in New York. You're going to see young players integrated into the lineup with the veterans, like the Capitals did. You're going to see an emulation of what the Capitals have done. That's what the Penguins are going to try to do, because it was done well. Yes, the Capitals have cap space and contracts on LTIR, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, exactly, cap space, which is what the Penguins have this summer. They have a crap load of cap space, which they'll have next summer too. So the Penguins are in the exact same spot, minus the top prospects, because we gave those all away. Thank you, Jim Rutherford. But the point is, we're getting those prospects. We got Rucker McGroarty, we got Koivunen. We're going to get some in the draft this year. They're probably not going to translate to the NHL. But, the thing with the young players is, you don't want to rush their development. You don't want to put somebody in the NHL before they're ready. Could cause them harm. I get it. But you're also who's ever fully ready? How do you get fully ready? You experience the thing firsthand, whether that's coming up for some games, going down like Owen Pickering did last year. Eventually you expect them to make that jump, and you help them through it, and you got to push them through it. And look, I know there's things that go on behind the scenes, and Owen Pickering was good, but I understand he wasn't like, oh my God, the best defenseman here. So, I get that, but I also think we need to get to a point now that we're really starting to have a good prospect pool of letting these players kind of play through some things and make some mistakes. And one of the other news outlets said the other day, what we saw with Koivunen and McGroarty coming up is, we saw that the world didn't end just because a 22-year-old or 21-year-old was on the line with Sidney Crosby. It's every game. You look at the lineup, and it's Raquel, Sid, and Rust, and then the second line is Gino, and it's like another veteran, and it's like, what are we just going to keep doing this over and over, not even make the playoffs anymore? So you're going to see some integrated young players with the veterans, which I'm really excited about. Everybody's so far has discounted. I don't want to say discounted. Nobody had Dan Muse on their radar because to some extent he's not a he's never been a head coach, and the big name was Mitch Love. Everybody was all on Mitch Love. So Muse's name was kind of just thrown around there as a maybe. And DJ Smith got a little bit more traction too. But I think why some people are a little bit hesitant I'm just going to call it out. I mean, Dan Muse doesn't look like a tough guy per se. I don't say that I don't mean that against him in any way. I watched the video. I watched a couple other videos of him actually doing interviews, and he seems great. He doesn't seem like weak in any way. He just seems like a great guy. Seems like a really smart guy, like a hockey dork, which I'm sure Sid is going to love. But I think that's probably why people look at it initially and they're like, oh man, really, this guy, So, but again, people are still, this is mind blowing to me. Penguins news outlets are still doing that. Follow the Penguins are still doing this. They're like, this is the guy you brought in to coach the core three it's like, guys, okay. The core three it might as well be no more. I know that's a hard pill for everybody to swallow, but it's over. We won the Stanley Cups. It is over. Just let it go. We stink, okay? Do you own a TV? We stink. We lost. We haven't made the playoffs in 2 years, 3 years now? I mean, watch the games. We are terrible. We give up the first goal. We can't keep a lead. It's over. And it's over just like those players' careers are going to be over. And we don't have to throw in the towel and say we're going to crap on those players' careers out the door, but you have to transition, okay? That's not disrespecting those careers. It's what it is. It's a business. You got to move. What are you going to do? Just be terrible, and then they retire, and then what? Then you're really stuck with nothing, and then you got what? Then you are the Buffalo Sabres or the Red Wings are just 10 years of nothing. So I still believe that it can work. Dubas's plan can work. We've seen it work. But like he said, you've got to, he said this in one of the ending press conferences, you got to execute your butts off now. You got to hit. They have got to hit so hard on that draft. They need another, players like Harrison Brunick, not necessarily defensemen, but they got to hit with players like that. Harrison Brunick, who, by the way, I don't see why he wouldn't make, if he's strong on a camp, why not put him in the lineup? Like what, if it's not bad for his development, let him play through it. Who cares? Like, so we got to hit on the draft. And what is that? Now we're 16, 20, we're 2.5 weeks away from that. So, which leads us to the next point, which is Dinner with Dubas. That's right. One lucky listener on the show is going to win tickets to dinner with Kyle Dubas. And here he is. Just kidding. Wouldn't that be interesting? Maybe I should host the Penguins podcast. Nothing against their host, but they do a weekly bi-weekly GM show, and the audio is just terrible. I think I should do that. Anyway, so Kyle Dubas, the scouting combine, which if you've watched any of the videos of, is boring. Kyle Dubas took out some of the players to dinner, and he said, don't read anything into it. I think one of the players didn't even know what he looked like. Thought that was pretty funny. But I mean, you got to read a little bit into it, right? Because he's going to take out players that he thinks are going to be available, and he wants to know if these players are going to be. What was that guy's name? I can't remember that draft pick who was just really cocky and ended up not really playing much in the NHL. So yeah, you got to know if these players, I don't want to say are they a good hang, but what type of personality does this person have? That affects the room. That affects if they're going to work hard, put the work ethic in. I mean, to some extent, you can learn about their training regimen and stuff like that from reading and scouts and whatnot. But to some extent, you gotta read them and you gotta meet them, and I respect that. So I'm not reading into it other than the people that he's met with, the people that he had dinner with. I don't have the full list. I know that Radim Murtka or whatever his name is, has that he knows that those are potentially people he could draft if they're available. I know Kyle Dubas is not going to waste his time meeting with people that he doesn't think he can get. He's not going to do that. He's a busy man. So we can at least read into that. If those people are available, one of those people would maybe get chosen. Unless he just likes having dinner with people. I don't know. Maybe he's lonely on the road. So, see what happens. I kind of want to actually bring up the draft prospects. What are we in? 2025. Let's just see where we're going to fall. I know, here we go. Of course, these have changed a million times. These are North American skaters. Why does it do this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Well, they're in the rank anyway. 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, so I mean, Schaefer, we're not going to get any of these folks. Jake O'Brien would be great. We're not going to. This was one of the guys he had dinner with, Murtka. I don't think he's going to go top 5, to be honest. I think he goes maybe 7 or 8. This guy was one they talked to. This is where we would be picking, I think, if we didn't have to win so much at the end of the season. Should have tanked. Brady Martin. I think Roger McQueen's the one that had the back injury, but he's supposed to be good now. So yeah, we're looking at this kind of stuff. I don't think any of these guys are NHL ready. I think all these guys are going to go back. I thought there was a NCAA guy in here, Boston University. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think we're not going to get somebody that comes in right. But again, I don't know. Like, if you look at, Harrison Brunick, I mean, he was second round? Darn near made the team last year. So this is where you gotta strike. He's got a full team. Wes Clark, I think, is the head of that team now, the scouting team. I believe scouting or player development, or I think it's the scouting team. So they got to hit on these draft picks. I mean, he talked about the Capitals, and that's what they did. They had the players that they drafted really well. We can't be having no offense to him. I actually still think he has potential. Jesse Puljujarvi, we can't be having one of those situations. We need to have, Sam Poulin. We can't be having any of those. We need to have somebody good. Which I forgot to make this point. I am actually really excited to see if any players really stand out. Actually, veterans and rookies, for that matter, really stand out under Dan Muse that did not stand out under Mike Sullivan. And part of that is we'll see, like, if there's a different style of play. Like Graves, we know the style of play for Mike Sullivan wasn't great. I'm excited to see if those players stand out in a big way. Even some of like Sam Poulin, he would come up and he wouldn't really do much. I'm excited to see what kind of changes there, because I think even somebody like Valtteri Puustinen, I think he still has a lot of potential. He's fast, he's offensive, and everybody wants to say, and I want to say that it's like, okay, and, he makes one mistake and then he gets benched. Like Sully is not a good coach for young players or to develop young players. I know that's where he started and he brought those guys up with him, but that's just not where he's at anymore. And so I'm just excited to see those players thrive under someone who does know how to connect with them and develop them when they do make mistakes. I'm not saying like Valtteri Puustinen's going to come up and score 40 goals. He might be what he is, but I'm just kind of excited to see where that goes. So we'll see how that happens. Regardless, I mean, the Penguins, we're going to do more videos on like trades and what the free agency outlook, kind of looks like, and the draft. I might even do some type of live stream like during the draft. I think that'd be kind of cool. I think it's usually 7 p.m. If my kids are asleep, that would be kind of fun. But yes, so we'll see where it happens there. Moving on, understanding Kyle Dubas's first year, and really his first summer he joined the Penguins. So everyone wants to crucify Dubas for the moves that he made when he first came to Pittsburgh, signing Tristan Jarry, signing Ryan Graves, trading for Erik Karlsson. I would have done the Karlsson deal again because he unloaded some really bad contracts, and I do think I'll be able to trade him this summer. We'll have to retain a little bit of salary, but we got cap space. It'll be worth it to open up the spot for a young defenseman, and by the time we're ready to use all that cap space in a big way, the salary is going to come off the books, and the salary is going to keep going up too, the salary cap. So it's a win-win in my mind. All of the news outlets, I've noticed, the Pittsburgh news outlets have covered this in a way that's, Kyle Dubas's, the direction, not necessarily the signings. The signings, definitely suspect, although I have a theory about that. But the direction of the team was fully on Kyle Dubas that summer. It was 2 months ago, I think it was, he mentioned in the weekly GM show that, which actually I think it's like every other week or monthly GM show that he does with Josh, I forget his last name, the announcer of the Penguins. He said that the first, and no other news articles mention this, they always put it on Dubas, the first summer that he came to the Penguins, the direction from ownership, you can go back and listen to it, it's on SoundCloud. The direction from ownership was to try to give it one more jolt and see if they could make it work. He says the direction from ownership. So it wasn't Kyle Dubas coming in saying, I think this is what the Penguins need right now. It was ownership saying, look, let's try one more time. We know it hasn't worked the last 7 times. Let's just give it another go. You know, signing those players to like the 6 years. Now that I get it. That's something that I do question the decision making. You know, like, why did we sign him to 6 years? Why did we sign Jarry to 6 years? Now, I could see, though, I think he didn't think the Penguins were going to be as bad. I think he thought it would phase out a little bit slower. And so by the time things were ready to turn around, he would have the prospect pool build up a little faster or build up a little longer over time. And so by the time those were ready to maybe step in, some of those contracts were getting lower and lower and the cap goes up. Basically, I didn't think he'd think they would stink right away, but they did. So like the signings, I could see that, being on him, but the direction of where it went, I don't know why everybody's has to, they put all of that on Dubas. And, I get it. His history with Toronto, he gets a bad rap there as well. But my other theory, if you remember that summer, everyone was like, Ron Hextall and Burke, they're fired, and Mike Sullivan's even going to help with some of the GM duties. Like, we don't know how much, to what extent a lot of those decisions were Kyle Dubas's either, How much say did Mike Sullivan have in that player development, or not player development, I'm sorry, in player signing? Like, did Mike Sullivan say, yeah, Jarry's the guy, he's the guy, go get him, Like, I know Dubas went out to Edmonton to meet with him at that time before they signed, but just, I don't know, there's so much of that we don't know. So all I'm saying is, for me, the judgment is still out on Kyle Dubas. I think he's done a great job. Those signings are a little bit suspect to me, but he changed course and he executed a different plan. And within, a year, we have draft pick after draft pick after draft pick, and we are in a good spot going into the draft and free agency with a ton of cap space, and we don't have to sign anybody big. Like, we don't have to do that. So, like, I'm excited to see what happens this offseason. My hope is that now we have a young coach that can develop players, that we don't necessarily sign a bunch of players to fill roster spots. My hope is that we let those roster spots be filled by those young players and let them have some time in the NHL. Work through this stuff. It's never going to turn the page unless you do that. You got to work through it. So I'm excited for those things. So let's get to now our question of the day. Again, you can ask a question. You can ask a question of the day by commenting on one of these videos. Get your question featured. I will feature it in an upcoming video. Today's question of the day. Ooh, this is a good one. Does Erik Karlsson get traded? I'm going to say traded this offseason. I think that I definitely think he'll try. I think that he does get traded. I'm like 80-20. I want to say I'm like 70-30, but I'm 80-20 because I think Dubas can pull a rabbit out of a hat. I do. I think he'll have to retain a little bit. We have 3 slots available, no problem. But I do think that he gets traded. He knows kind of where they're going now. He came that summer because he wanted to come to a contender. It didn't work out. They're they're rebuilding, and he's not really interested in that. And he's kind of not really a good defenseman. I mean, I know he won the Norris Trophy on a terrible team. Yeah, we talk about the style of players that need to be on the team for him to succeed, and the style he has of putting the puck to the net, and there's got to be players at the net, and blah blah blah. He is horrific on defense. I mean, on a team that needs to defend with shaky goaltending, and I mean, he's just horrific. Again, here's the thing: we don't know. I'll put Karlsson in this too. How these players are going to perform under a different coach, not even different coach, different system. Some of the other news outlets have talked about, what about is the expectation of players pinching all the time? Is that going to change under Muse? And in which case, because we see Carlson pinching and then he's too slow. He can't get back. That's what happens. You're old now. So is that going to be something that's not expected? And how much of that was Carlson wanting to do that versus Sullivan's expectation of them to do that, to generate offense because we play fast and we're going to score all these goals? So I'll put Carlson in there too, but I also think that I think he'll try to trade him because I just think that it hasn't worked the way we thought it would. And even the comment that he made about his actions need to match his ambitions makes me think that, okay, is this guy even really a good role model for these young players coming in? If his actions don't match his ambitions, I would assume that's probably on and off the ice, right? In which case, if his off-ice performance is anything like his on-ice performance, then, is he the best role model to have around? So I think he tries. I think he might have to retain a little. I don't think he's going to have to retain like half. I could see him retaining $2 million, unless he finds a suitor. I mean, look, we got a ton of assets. Unless he finds a suitor, and we're not at the draft yet. We're going to see some trades. Things are going to get shooken up. I mean, unless he finds a suitor to retain some salary for him for a small fee. I mean, we'll see what happens, but I do think he tries to trade him, and I could see him getting traded and opening up some space for the Penguins on defense. Hopefully that opens up some space for Owen Pickering, who I think is probably ready to experience it full time if he has a great summer. Harrison Brunick, I think, give it a go. Why not? I mean, he almost made the team last year. I just think some of those guys just try, and maybe if you need to sign anybody in the off season to have some insurance, go ahead. But I think they will have some players to fill those spots. But I think he tries. So we'll see what happens. That is pretty much it for today's show, everybody. That is episode 3 of Pens Talk with Puck Mike. I really appreciate everybody tuning in. Again, if you want to get your question featured for Question of the Day, go ahead and comment on one of the videos, ask a question, and I'll be happy to feature it in an upcoming video. Be sure to also check out the blog, penstalkwithpuckmike.com. Brand new blog up there. Brand new site, brand new blog. And you can also check out my other hockey card content on this channel, as well as my other hockey card podcast, The Puck Mike Show, which I'll be bringing back very soon. I have that next video all planned out. And hopefully going to be doing, like I said, a checklist review of Parkhurst 24-25 Parkhurst Champions hockey cards. You can also check out my other channel at Cardzu Sports Cards, where I share my experience selling mostly low-end sports cards on eBay. Thank you all so much for watching. I am looking forward to episode 4. I'll check you later.